There's a version of this story that plays out in offices across America every single day. Someone gets a raise, a good one, and within 6 months, they feel just as broke as before, maybe more so. The number in their paycheck changed, but something in their brain made sure nothing else did. And here's what almost nobody tells you. That's not a discipline problem. It's not laziness. It's 3 specific psychological traps working against you that nobody ever named. By the time this is over, you're going to recognize exactly which one has been running your financial life. And you're going to understand something that changes everything. Let's start with the first trap. Loss aversion. Here's what the research actually shows. Losing $100 feels roughly twice as painful as gaining $100 feels good. Think about that. The pain of loss is twice the size of the pleasure of gain, which means your brain is biologically wired to avoid losing more than it wants to win, and that sounds reasonable. Until you see what it does to your money. Here's how loss aversion plays out in real life. You get a bonus, maybe $3,000. For about a week, you feel great. Then you start thinking, well, the car needs work. The rent went up. The kids have school stuff coming. And so you don't invest it. You don't put it in your Roth IRA. You hold it, because spending it feels safer than the risk of watching it go down in the market. You know that feeling, that quiet paralysis when you think about actually doing something with your money. That's loss aversion. Your brain framing investment as a potential loss rather than an action as a certain one. Here's the painful irony. The money sitting in a checking account is losing value. Every year, inflation quietly eats at it. The risk you were trying to avoid was already happening. You just couldn't feel it the same way. Loss aversion keeps millions of Americans in a holding pattern, not spending, not investing, just waiting. For certainty that never comes, and wealth never built on a pause. The second trap is called present bias, and it might be the most expensive one of all. Present bias is simple. Your brain gives enormous weight to right now, and almost no weight to 20 years from now. The future version of you feels like a stranger, someone you'll meet eventually, not someone you're building for today. This is why 44% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency expense. Not because they're not earning. Many of them are earning well. It's because the present version of themselves always needs something that feels more urgent than the future version's retirement. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said, I'll start investing next month, next year? Once things settle down, that's present bias talking. And here's the brutal math it hides from you. 35-year-old who invests $300 a month into a simple index fund, reaching average historical returns, will have roughly $450,000 by 65. The same person who waits just 5 years to start ends up with about $290,000. They waited 5 years. They lost $160,000, not to bad investments. To present bias. The third trap is the one nobody sees coming, because it arrives wearing the disguise of success. It's called the hedonic treadmill. Here's how it works. You get the raise. You get the promotion. You upgrade the apartment. The new place is beautiful. You feel genuinely great for about 3 months. Then it becomes normal, and you need the next thing to feel that same high again. This is why Americans who earn $200,000 a year can feel just as financially anxious as Americans earning $50,000. The ceiling of enough keeps rising at exactly the same speed as income. Think about the last time you upgraded something in your life. A phone, a car, a subscription. How long did that feeling last? The hedonic treadmill doesn't discriminate by income level. It scales with income level. Every raise you get, it adjusts the baseline. And suddenly, the lifestyle you worked so hard to reach feels like the new floor, not the destination. This is why financial anxiety in America is not a low-income problem. It's a psychological default that runs on every income level, until you name it and interrupt it. Here's what all 3 of these traps have in common. Loss aversion, present bias, the hedonic treadmill. They're not failures of character. They're features of a human brain that evolved for a world where hoarding, short-term thinking, and status signaling kept you alive. They just don't serve you in a world where wealth is built over decades. So what do you actually do about them? The answer is not willpower. Willpower is a finite resource, and it always loses to a psychological pattern that's been running since your ancestors were hunting for food. The answer is system design. You take the decision out of your own hands. Loss aversion. Automate your investments so the money moves before you can feel the loss of it. Out of sight, out of reach, out of the part of your brain that panics. Present bias. Set up automatic contributions to your 401k or Roth IRA the day after every payday, not someday. Automatically. The future version of you makes zero decisions in this system. They just receive the result. The hedonic treadmill. The fix is the hardest one. It requires you to consciously hold the lifestyle while income rises. To let the gap widen between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is where wealth lies. There's a certain kind of person who figures this out. You've probably met one without realizing it. They don't drive the most expensive car. Their apartment is nice, but not ostentatious. They seem calm about money in a way most people aren't. They're not calmer because they have more. They're calmer because they stopped letting these 3 traps run the show. They automated the loss aversion away. They defeated present bias with a system set up years ago. And they got off the hedonic treadmill by deciding the treadmill was the trap, not the destination. Here's the question worth sitting with tonight. Which of these 3 traps has cost you the most? Loss aversion, holding your money hostage in a checking account. Present bias convincing you to start next year? Or the hedonic treadmill, quietly consuming every raise you've ever gotten? You don't have to answer all 3 at once. But naming the right one is the beginning of something different. If this changed how you think about why Americans stay broke even with good incomes, subscribe. This channel is about the psychology behind money, not the spreadsheets. The stuff underneath. And next time, we're going to show you exactly what the system looks like. The one that removes every one of these decisions permanently.